There is a building in Coventry where the rain still falls on empty tarmac, where the gates open and close for fewer cars than they once did in a single hour. The sign above the entrance still carries the leaping cat, the same silhouette that once meant something to half the world. The same silhouette that now, for many in Britain, raises a question nobody in the boardroom seems willing to answer out loud. What happened to Jaguar? Not the polite version, not the press release version, not the carefully worded statement read out by a man in an open-colored shirt standing in front of a screen of pastel colors. The real version. The version the workers tell each other in the canteen. The version the dealers tell each other after the showroom closes. The version your father, if he ever owned an XJ6, would tell you if you sat him down and poured him a drink and asked him honestly what went wrong. Because somewhere between the wood-trimmed dashboards of the 1960s and the strange, formless, slab-sided concept cars of the 2020s, a company that once defined British luxury became something else. Something the people who grew up with it no longer recognize. Something the press now mocks. Something the city no longer trusts. Something its own customers have started to walk away from. Something Elon Musk publicly asked in front of millions whether it even still made cars. And it didn't happen by accident. To understand how it came to this, we have to go back, but not far, because the collapse of Jaguar's identity is not a century-long story. It is a fast one, a brutal one, a story compressed into decades, then years, then months, then a single afternoon in November 2024, when the entire country watched in real time as 100 years of British luxury was set on fire by the people who were paid to protect it. This is that story, and it is still happening. The moment everything cracked, November 2024. A short film appears online without warning. No cars, no engines, no leaping cat, no Coventry, no Castle Brandwich, no leather, no walnut, no chrome. Just models in pink and yellow walking through a colored desert, holding hammers, posing in front of geometric shapes, while phrases flash on screen in a font no Jaguar customer alive had ever seen before. Live vivid, delete ordinary, copy nothing. It is meant to be the rebirth of Jaguar, the boldest reinvention in the company's history, a line drawn under the past, a leap into a new future, a future of all-electric ultra-luxury vehicles that will compete not with BMW or Mercedes, but with Bentley and Rolls-Royce. A future the leadership team insists requires courage. Within 24 hours, it is the most ridiculed corporate launch in modern British automotive history. The clip is shared millions of times, reposted, dissected, mocked frame by frame. Elon Musk asks publicly on his own platform whether Jaguar still sells cars. Nigel Farage calls it woke. Newspapers run the words corporate suicide in headlines that would have been considered libelous about any other company in any other industry. Comedians produce sketches about it within hours. Designers who had spent careers admiring the leaping cat published lengthy threads explaining with diagrams exactly what was wrong with the new logo. Marketing professors record videos for their students explaining how not to relaunch a luxury brand. And in Coventry, in Whitley, in Castle Brandwich, in Solihull, the workers who built XJs and XKs and F-types for decades sit in canteens watching the same video on their phones, asking the same question. What is this? What is this supposed to be? What does this have to do with us? A man who has bolted door panels to Jaguars for 31 years stands at a vending machine and watches the clip 3 times. He does not laugh. He does not even shake his head. He simply puts his phone in his pocket and walks back to a production line that within months will be paused. Production of every existing Jaguar sedan, coupe, and sports car wound down. The factories quiet. The workers reassigned, retrained, or in some cases, gone. This is the moment the world stopped seeing Jaguar as a wounded luxury mark and started seeing it as a punchline, a meme, a case study, a thing your friends send you links about with 3 crying laughing emojis attached. A thing your father, if he ever owned an XJ6, will not send you links about because he cannot bear to look. But to understand how a company founded in a Blackpool sidecar workshop in 1922 ended up here in a pink desert without a car, without a leaping cat, without dignity, we have to rewind quickly, because the speed of this fall is the story. The rapid-fire rise. William Lyons, 21 years old, a man with no engineering degree, no inherited wealth, no obvious advantage other than an obsession with making ordinary cars look extraordinary. He starts in Blackpool with a partner, William Walmsley, building stylish sidecars for motorbikes, the Swallow Sidecar Company. He has a feel for line, for proportion, for the way light falls across a curved metal surface. He has, for want of a better word, taste. And taste in 1920s Britain is a saleable commodity. By the late 1930s, Swallow Sidecar has become SS cars. From SS cars, after the war and for obvious reasons, comes a new name, Jaguar. A name chosen, the story goes, for its sleekness, its predator energy, its suggestion of money you didn't quite have but desperately wanted to look like you did. The name does not describe the cars, it promises them. After the war, the promises start arriving. The XK120 in 1948, a car so beautiful it stops traffic at every motor show it appears at. A car capable, the marketing claims, of 120 miles an hour, faster than any production car in the world. A car priced at a fraction of the European competition. A car that in one stroke tells the world what Jaguar will be for the next 20 years. Beautiful, fast, cheaper than it looks. Then the C-Type, the D-Type. Le Mans wins in 1951, 1953, 1955, 1956, 1957. 5 victories in 7 years on the most prestigious endurance circuit in the world. Jaguar is no longer a British company. Jaguar is a British argument. Proof that this country, smaller than France, smaller than Germany, broken by war, rationed and gray and damp, can still out-design, out-engineer, and out-style anyone in Europe at half the price. Then, in 1961, the E-Type. A car so audacious in shape that Enzo Ferrari is widely reported to have called it the most beautiful car ever made. A long bonnet that seems to extend forever. A cabin pushed back like an afterthought. Wire wheels, a grille like a parted mouth. A car priced at around £2,000 against Italian rivals costing 3 or 4 times as much. The E-Type is not just a car. It is a statement that Britain, in the early 1960s, can still make something the world cannot stop looking at. And that, precisely that, is the problem. Half the price, always half the price. Because William Lyons, for all his genius, built Jaguar on a contradiction it never resolved. Luxury cars sold at volume prices. Hand-finished interiors and racing pedigree undercutting Mercedes and BMW by thousands of pounds. It works in the 1950s. It works in the 1960s. It will not work for long. Because to sell luxury at volume prices, you must control your costs with the discipline of a German engineering firm. And Jaguar, brilliant in design, was never a German engineering firm. Jaguar was a Coventry workshop that happened to make jewelry. By the mid-1960s, the cracks are already visible. The cars are beautiful. The cars are exciting. The cars also, with increasing frequency, do not start in the rain. The single decision that doomed it. 1966. Jaguar merges with the British Motor Corporation. From there, in 1968, into British Leyland. And in that one boardroom decision, sold to the public as strength through scale, sold to the unions as job security, sold to the government as national champion building, Jaguar lost the thing William Lyons had spent 40 years constructing: control of itself. Inside British Leyland, Jaguar is no longer a company. Jaguar is a line item on a spreadsheet alongside Austin, Morris, Triumph, Rover, Wolseley, Riley, MG, and a dozen others. Engineers who have spent careers refining the XK engine are now told to share platforms with vehicles half the price. Quality control, once obsessive under Lyons, is now subordinated to a national strike calendar that turns Coventry into a chessboard of stoppages. The cars of the 1970s, the XJ Series 2, the XJS, look like Jaguars. They sound like Jaguars. They break down like nothing William Lyons would have ever allowed to leave a factory. The XJ Series 2, launched in 1973, is described in subsequent decades as one of the most unreliable luxury cars ever sold in Britain. The XJS, launched in 1975, lands at the worst possible moment, in the middle of an oil crisis, with a thirsty V12 engine and build quality that gives owners an intimate understanding of their local recovery service. Jaguars rust, Jaguars stall, Jaguars leak, Jaguars catch fire. The cars remain beautiful. They simply cannot be relied upon. By 1980, the joke is already forming. A Jaguar, the saying goes, is a beautiful car you own twice, once when you buy it, once when you tow it home. The brand is wounded, the image is bleeding, and the British public, having spent 3 decades being told that Jaguar represents the best of what this country can build, begins, quietly, to suspect that the best of what this country can build is no longer good enough. The acceleration. Privatization in 1984. Jaguar is sold off from the wreckage of British Leyland and listed on the London Stock Exchange. For a moment, optimism returns. New management, new investment. The XJ40, launched in 1986, is praised. Sales recover. The leaping cat briefly looks like it might leap again. Then, 1989, Ford arrives with a checkbook. £1.6 billion, a staggering sum, a sum that values Jaguar at a multiple no analyst can quite justify, a sum that reflects more than anything Detroit's belief that prestige can be bought, polished, and exported. Ford takes Jaguar into what it calls the premier automotive group. Jaguar will be the crown jewel. Jaguar will share platforms, share factories, share parts, share supply chains with Ford. Jaguar will be saved by the world's second-largest car company. 20 years later, Ford will admit that Jaguar was a money pit. Reports suggest Ford poured over £10 billion into Jaguar across 2 decades and never made a sustained profit. The reasons are documented in business school case studies and trade publications. Ford didn't understand the customer. Ford pushed for volume when Jaguar's identity required scarcity. Ford insisted on cost sharing that diluted the engineering. And Ford, fatally, produced the X-Type. The X-Type, launched in 2001, was the symbol of everything wrong with Ford ownership, compressed into a single product. A small Jaguar, a Mondeo in a dinner jacket, a front-wheel drive saloon in a brand built on rear-wheel drive prestige, sharing its underpinnings with one of the most ordinary family cars on British roads. The marketing tried to position it as accessible Jaguar. The customers saw it for what it was, a Mondeo with extra wood. The press called it what it was, a badge-engineered embarrassment. Loyalists felt insulted. New customers were not fooled. The car sold below expectations, and damaged the brand for a generation. By the mid-2000s, Ford was looking for a way out. Jaguar, the crown jewel, had become an albatross. And in 2008, in the middle of a global financial crisis, Ford sold Jaguar and Land Rover together to Tata Motors of India for £1.7 billion, less in absolute terms than they had paid for Jaguar alone 19 years earlier. The British press treated the sale as a humiliation, an Indian company buying a British icon. The reality was different. Tata was patient. Tata was deep-pocketed. Tata understood, in a way Ford never had, that Jaguar's value was not in volume, but in identity. For a moment, things changed. The X-Fire arrived in 2008, the new XJ in 2009, the F-Type sports car in 2013, the F-Pace, Jaguar's first SUV, in 2016, the XE compact saloon, the I-Pace electric crossover in 2018. For a brief window, somewhere between 2010 and 2017, Jaguar looked like it had remembered what it was. Sales climbed, showrooms refilled, the leaping cat seemed to mean something again. Critics praised the design language led by Ian Callum. Customers, especially in China and the United States, began to return. And then it didn't. Because while Jaguar was rediscovering itself, the industry it lived in was changing faster than any boardroom in Coventry could process. Electrification arrived, not as a slow transition, but as a tidal wave. Software became more important than mechanical engineering. Chinese competitors emerged from nowhere, building luxury electric vehicles from scratch, with state backing and engineering budgets the size of small national economies. German rivals, Mercedes EQ, BMW i, Audi e-tron, poured tens of billions into the transition, and Jaguar, the small British outlier, with a fraction of their budget and a fraction of their scale, had no clear answer. The collapse returns. The I-Pace, launched in 2018, was the first credible all-electric luxury SUV from a legacy European brand. It beat the Mercedes EQC and the Audi e-tron to market by months. It won European Car of the Year in 2019. It was, on paper, a triumph. On paper. In reality, the I-Pace was a beginning that never had a sequel. Jaguar built one electric car, and then for years built no others. Sales of the I-Pace, strong at first, faded as competitors arrived with newer, cheaper, more refined alternatives. The car aged in showrooms. The promise of an electric Jaguar lineup never materialized. By 2023, the I-Pace was being reported in some markets as discontinued. Meanwhile, the rest of the range was hollowing out. The XJ, the saloon that had defined Jaguar since 1968, was quietly killed in 2019 with no direct replacement. The XC and XF compact and mid-size saloons, never strong sellers against German rivals, faded from showrooms. The F-Type sports car, beautiful and beloved, was discontinued. The F-Pace SUV continued. The E-Pace continued. But the Jaguar lineup, by 2023, was thinner than it had been in any year since the 1970s. The numbers tell the story without commentary. Jaguar's global sales, which had peaked at around 180,000 cars in 2018, collapsed in subsequent years to figures lower than Jaguar had recorded in the 1990s. By 2023, in some major markets, Jaguar was selling fewer cars in a year than Porsche sold in a month. The dealerships that survived were running on Land Rover money. The Range Rovers, the Defenders, the Discoveries, those were what kept the lights on. Jaguar, the name, the brand, the heritage, was now a loss-making appendage to its more profitable sibling. Inside Tata, the calculation became unavoidable. Continue to subsidize Jaguar against the wind of an industry-wide electrification race? Or take a swing, a big one, possibly the last one? In late 2023 and into 2024, the decision was confirmed: reinvent or die. Kill the existing range, stop production, pause sales for nearly 2 years across most markets, re-emerge as an all-electric, ultra-luxury brand, competing not with BMW and Mercedes, but with Bentley, Rolls-Royce, and Aston Martin. 3 new cars, 6-figure price tags, a new design language, a new customer profile, a new everything. It was, on paper, a coherent strategy. There was a logic to it. The mass-market luxury space was dead for Jaguar. The volume race was unwinnable. The only way to survive was to retreat up-market to where margins were enormous and competitors were few. Bentley sold around 15,000 cars a year and made hundreds of millions in profit. Rolls-Royce sold even fewer and made even more. If Jaguar could position itself in that thin air, the maths could work. The strategy was defensible. The execution was something else entirely. The Pink Desert. The rebrand launch arrived without a car. That is the first thing to understand, and it is the thing that more than any color choice or font decision or runway model broke the campaign before it began. A company whose entire reason for existing for over 100 years has been the cars, launched its rebirth without showing one. Instead, the world received a film of androgynous models walking through a colored wasteland, accompanied by phrases that read like rejected luxury fragrance copy. Live vivid, delete ordinary, copy nothing. The new logo abandoned the leaping cat that had defined the brand since 1935, retired, set aside, replaced by a flattened, neutered word mark in a typeface that looked, to ordinary eyes, like every other tech startup in every other tech startup's pitch deck. The color palette shifted to pinks, yellows, and pastel oranges that no Jaguar customer in living memory had ever requested. The new identity, the leadership team insisted, was exuberant modernism. The reaction was instantaneous and global. It was not criticism, it was ridicule, the kind of ridicule a brand cannot recover from in a news cycle. Politicians weighed in, comedians weighed in, former Jaguar designers weighed in. Ian Callum, the man who had led Jaguar's design renaissance for nearly 2 decades, expressed visible discomfort in interviews. The leadership team appeared on stages and in interviews, defending the campaign with language that sounded, to ordinary British ears, like a foreign tongue. They spoke of exuberant modernism. They spoke of fearless creativity. They spoke of attracting new customers who had never owned a Jaguar before. They did not speak of cars. They did not speak of engineering. They did not speak of Coventry. When asked directly why the campaign featured no cars, executives insisted that the brand needed to be reset before the product was revealed. The argument made sense in a marketing classroom. It made no sense to a public that had spent a century associating Jaguar with one thing: the cars. Take away the cars, and what was left? A logo? A slogan? A pink desert? When the first concept car finally appeared, the Type 0, it didn't rescue the campaign, it deepened the crisis. A long slab-sided coupe in copper and pale blue, with a boot that looked like a brick, proportions that no one could place, a roofline that defied luxury convention, and a presence that polarized even motoring journalists who had been determined to defend the rebrand. Some called it visionary, most called it ugly, a few called it both. The car was a deliberate provocation. The provocation worked. It provoked. What it did not do was generate desire, and that is the heart of the corporate joke. Not the colors, not the models, not the slogans, not the logo. The fact that Jaguar, a company once defined by being the most desired silhouette on a British road, had produced something almost no one wanted to be seen in. The damage. Behind the campaign, the damage is real and it is measurable. Dealer networks across Britain have been called. Jaguar showrooms in cities that hosted them for decades have closed or been folded into Land Rover spaces. Dealers who survived describe a year with almost nothing to sell. Service departments are full of older Jaguars needing maintenance. Sales departments are empty of new ones. Salespeople who have sold Jaguars for 30 years describe the experience of telling customers that yes, the company is still alive. No, there are no new cars. Yes, there will be new cars eventually. No, we cannot tell you when. Yes, we know what the rebrand looked like. No, we cannot explain it.
Some of those dealers will not survive the transition. Some have already given up the franchise. Some have moved entirely to Land Rover, BMW, or other brands. The dealer network that Jaguar will need when the new ultra-luxury cars finally arrive will be smaller, thinner, and less loyal than the one it had before the rebrand began. In Coventry, in Castle Bromwich, in Solihull, the supplier ecosystem that once fed Jaguar has been quietly hollowed out. The trim makers, the leather workers, the small engineering firms in the Midlands that had supplied parts for 40 years. Some of those firms have gone. Others have pivoted entirely to Land Rover work. Others have simply closed their doors, sold their machinery, and let their final employees retire. A web of expertise built over decades, gone in months. The workers who remain inside Jaguar speak carefully when they speak at all. They have seen this before, under British Leyland, under Ford. They know the rhythm. They know what it sounds like when a brand is being managed for an exit rather than a future. They watch the rebrand. They watch the production pause. They watch the silence from the new cars. They watch the redundancies, and they wait. The town of Castle Bromwich, where Jaguars have been built for decades, faces an uncertain future. The plant's role in the new electric Jaguar lineup is unclear. Production of the new cars is reportedly being concentrated at Solihull and other facilities. The future of Castle Bromwich, beyond the existing programs that have now ended, is one of the open questions hanging over the brand. And that is the question now hanging over the entire rebrand. Not whether the cars will sell, not whether the strategy will work, but whether Tata, having invested for 16 years, having tried patience and tried boldness and tried reinvention, is preparing the ground to sell, license out, partner out, or quietly retire one of the most famous names in the history of the automobile. There are signs in both directions. The investment in the new platform is real. The marketing budget is real. The factories are being retooled. The intent appears to be survival. But there are also signs of an exit being prepared in slow motion. The shrinking of the brand's footprint, the loss of dealer relationships, the quietness from the boardroom about long-term commitment, the sense, audible to anyone who has listened to the language of corporate Britain for long enough, that decisions are being made not on a 5-year horizon, but on a 2-year one. The old cars. There is a small museum in Coventry where the old cars are kept. The British Motor Museum, the Jaguar Heritage Trust collection. Walk through it on a quiet weekday afternoon and you will see them. The XK120 in racing green, the C-Type, the D-Type, the E-Type in the same color, low and long and sculptural, the bonnet stretching forward like an argument made in metal. The Mark II Saloon, the car of bank robbers and police inspectors and provincial solicitors. The XJ6, with its narrow grille and its long bonnet, and its sense, even now, of belonging to a country that believed it could make the best of something simply because it always had. Visitors walk past these cars in silence. Children touch the leather and ask their parents what the badge means. Older men, the men who actually owned Jaguars in the years when owning a Jaguar meant something, stand longer than they need to, hands in pockets, looking at machines built by people they once knew, in factories that no longer exist, for a Britain that no longer makes its own luxury. Some of them worked at Brown's Lane. Some of them worked at Castle Bromwich. Some of them remember the strikes, the layoffs, the redundancies, the sales, the rescues, the relaunches. Some of them have lived the entire arc of this story and are still standing. They do not say much. They do not need to. The cars say it. The final cut. Jaguar is not yet dead. The company exists. The factories operate.
The new cars will arrive. Some will be sold. Some will even be admired. Some buyer somewhere on a private estate in Surrey, or in a gated compound in Dubai, or in a penthouse in Singapore, will pay a six-figure sum for a Type 00 derivative and park it next to a Bentley and consider it a fine piece of contemporary design. But the brand, the idea, the meaning of the word Jaguar in the British imagination, that has already gone. It went the moment the leaping cat was retired in favor of a wordmark designed by people who had never owned one. It went the moment the rebrand film aired without a car. It went the moment 100 years of restrained, understated, quietly arrogant British luxury was replaced by a pink desert and a slogan that read like a threat: copy nothing. In the end, that was the only honest line in the entire campaign, because there is nothing left to copy. There is no Jaguar to imitate. There is only a name, a logo, and a corporate joke told at the expense of every man and woman who ever bolted a wing onto a Coventry production line and believed they were building something that would outlast them. They were wrong. The thing they built is still standing. The thing it represented is gone. The country that built it watched it happen in real time on their phones in a single afternoon in November 2024, and could not look away, and could not stop laughing, and could not stop grieving, often at the same time. The leaping cat is in a museum now. So are the cars. So, in many ways, is the country that made them, and the building in Coventry where the rain still falls on empty tarmac will eventually fall silent. The gates will open and close for the last time. The sign will come down. Someone will photograph it. The photograph will trend for a day, and then the world will move on, as the world always moves on, leaving behind one more empty factory in one more British town, one more set of skills lost, one more story of a country that invented the future, and then, quietly, methodically, with the active participation of the people paid to prevent it, gave it away. Jaguar did not die in a single afternoon in November 2024. It only stopped pretending.